Greetings to you all. I'm Derek Horn, editor for Modern Machine Shop and Production Machining. Webinars built around case studies slash real world technology applications are always neat. And that's what we have today with a webinar sponsored by MachineMetrics. So with that, I'm just going to quickly kick it over to Graham Immerman, Chief Revenue Officer for MachineMetrics, to get us started.
Thank you, Derek. Appreciate the introduction, and it's always great to be back on the Modern Machine Shop stage. As Derek mentioned, my name is Graham Immerman. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer here at MachineMetrics. We are here today to talk about complex yet simple solutions. Specifically today, our webinar is about palletized machines and how to track them. As many of you know, palletized machines are among the highest output assets, right? Yet also are the hardest to actually track what's really happening, right? Operators name a few different jobs at the start of the shift. The cell cycles through them automatically, and by the day's end, your ERP can't seem to connect with what's really happening there, right? RCO knew that problem, right? They've got hundreds of employees, multiple campuses, multiple complex machining environments, right? And these palletized machines and cells represented a challenge to track, right? And that was impacting their ability to do what they do best, which is make some of the best products in the world. And so today we're going to review their journey from essentially utilizing a technology like MachineMetrics. Can you guys not see me anymore?
Not anymore, Graham.
That is weird. All right. Well, we're going to try that one more time. Hang tight. Sorry about that, everybody. I have no explanation for that. So just hang tight while we deal with one quick technical issue, and then we'll get started, okay?
Graham, if you want to check where you're okay, perfect. We see your camera. Just want to upload that background.
Yeah, just your background is just not working. So we're just going to do it live. We'll blur the background. Hopefully, no, yeah, there's something wrong with it. So we'll just keep going. You can see my beautiful room that I'm in today. So always a great thing to start with here. Can at least you still see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Lovely. So anyways, we're here today to talk about Eric. We're talking about RCO, talk about MES, and how we can track these complex assets. So let's get into it. All right. So some quick housekeeping. There's a chat section. Chat amongst yourselves, right? This is a group thing, right? So if you have questions, check in from wherever you are in the world. Tell us hello. We'd love to chat with you during the webinar. We've got team members here. Eric and I are both in the chat. MMS is in the chat. Talk amongst yourselves, right? We've also got a Q&A section in the navigation. Feel free to share questions along the way. We might answer them in real time. We might not. We might hold them till the end of the webinar. But regardless, your questions matter, okay? So make sure that we bring those to the table so we can do our best to answer them. The recording itself will be available. So don't hesitate to share it and watch it again and again, because it's going to be that awesome. And follow-up resources will be sent to everybody after the webinar so you can learn more about all the stuff that we're talking about today. So we've got two of us here speaking with you today. I, of course, Graham, Chief Revenue Officer here at MachineMetrics. And I'm joined today by Eric Doyle, Operations Manager at RCO Engineering. Eric, mind giving everybody a shout out?
Thanks for having me, guys. Graham, I'm excited to talk about some cool tech in the industry and manufacturing.
Awesome. Your tech definitely going to go better than my background technology for this webinar. And that I feel confident in. Just before we kick things off, a couple more quick hitters. For those of you West Coasters, we are hosting a West Coast manufacturing meetup on September 2nd, 2026 from 2 to 7. our customer Epicor is welcoming customers, prospects, partners to a factory tour and a networking event. It's in the LA area. It's going to be freaking awesome. I highly suggest for those of you who are in the area to sign up now. The team will drop a link into the chat so you can have a chance to do so. There are limited seats available, so do not forget to sign up. Otherwise, you might not get a seat, and that would suck. Of course, for everybody in the space, it's IMTS time. It's like the Super Bowl, and we'll be there. The last time at IMTS, I believe the fire marshal actually came to our booth because it was so overcrowded. So they knocked down the wall and gave us the booth behind us. So now we've got a 20 by 20 space in the software pavilion, 133, 100. We'll be doing a speaking session during the event on Wednesday with our partner at AWS called Bringing Industrial AI to the Machine Shop Floor with AWS MachineMetrics. It's going to be an awesome event. We're going to be showing off incredible new technology. We're going to be doing demos, meeting with customers, partners. Don't hesitate to show up. We'll make sure it's a great time. We're looking forward to seeing you all there. Now, a quick poll before we get started. Today's poll, which is going to be launched in the poll section of your navigation, is how are you tracking your automated or palletized cells today? A, manual entry, paper travelers. Two, ERP work order closeout. 3, some sort of machine monitoring technology. Or 4, well, we don't really do that. So get in there, get in the poll, put your votes in. I want to see you all in there. Drop it in there. This is important learning. All right, we've got some things coming in now. Appreciate the votes. We'll give it just a few more seconds here while we take a couple more votes. And we'll get back to the answers on that shortly. All right. Now, while we're waiting for votes to come in, a little spiel on MachineMetrics. Many of you know who we are. You've been with us. I was an early employee of MachineMetrics, probably top 5 to 7 first people here. And back in the day, we had a couple customers, that we were supporting using our machine monitoring technology. Fast forward to today, MachineMetrics is on 6 continents. We have hundreds of customers all over the world that use our platform. It's been a beautiful journey, the journey of a lifetime to get to where we are today. And we're here solving a very specific problem, which is the problem of execution. Manufacturers don't necessarily fail at the planning side of business, even though that is a problem, right? But we really fail when it comes to executing work itself, right? The plans, these big plans that we create within our ERP system, what to make, when to make, how much it's going to cost, and when we're going to get it done by. Reality, right, on the shop floor disrupts those plans. Machines, they break down, setups, they run over, materials arrive late, someone doesn't show up to work on time, right? The tribal knowledge overrides the system logic. These gaps exist everywhere and constantly, right? And they are called execution gaps, and they are killing our ability to get our products out the door to our customers faster and more efficiently than ever before. Now, in today's modern world with automation, right? Manual processes, right, that were once done by hand are becoming more and more and more automated, right? Every single day, right? Cobots, multi-palleted machines, right? The more automation, the worse the technology that was built in the past is at solving and understanding those problems, right? Legacy MES systems, machine monitoring tools of the past were built for technology that doesn't exist anymore today or isn't really used, right? Automated machining doesn't wait for a person, right? When the system can't keep up, right? You have to work around it, right? You have to essentially adjust your process to the solution, right? And we all know that today's world is all about being in real time. It's not just about increasing our speed of reactivity. It's actually being proactive, even predicting what's going to happen next so we can take corrective actions, right? So the systems of yesterday are just not solving today's problems, right? And that's why we exist, right? That's why MachineMetrics has become the leader in what we do. We deliver an AI-powered manufacturing operations platform. It's designed to help customers intelligently execute their manufacturing operations. Truly what separates us, I think, from the market is that we have a single platform that helps our customers connect, execute, optimize, and build solutions across their entire manufacturing lifecycle. The things that we're well known for is our connectivity. We don't just connect to machines, right? But we also connect to ERP. We support these universal connectors that allow us to capture every machine signal from your CNCs or PLC-driven machines and contextualize that data with work order information. So we're not just monitoring a machine, right? We're monitoring the work itself, right? And then that data helps us execute the work, right? Every job, every shift. When those work orders are dispatched from the ERP, we take over, right? And then we offer a single place for our customers to execute that work, from work order and labor tracking to dynamic scheduling and routing, operator guidance, tool life monitoring in real time. Everything can be done from a single interface, right? No longer do you need a mosaic of tablets around your operator, right? You can have a single place where we're providing guidance to help you execute each part faster and more efficiently than the last. Within the same system, we help you then optimize that production, right? OEE, utilization, downtime patterns. We call this stuff production intelligence, are automatically surfaced, right? And sent to the right people at the right time so they can take corrective actions, right? So they can improve, not just execute. And then for everything else, right? We have a development platform that we call Carbide, and this is a very new technology. And I think for a long time, customers and manufacturers essentially believed that they needed to rebuild MES systems from scratch because there's something specific or unique about their business, right? And the reality is, I talked to my team about this the other day. It turns out that human beings, 99.9% of our DNA is the same, yet we all look very different, right? And you can say the same about manufacturing. It's not 99.9%. But there's a lot of things that make precision machining and metalworking operations the same, right? And so what's unique about our platform is that we deliver a solution that gives you everything that you need out of the box to start connecting, executing, and optimizing your business. And then an AI developer platform on top that helps you fill in that unique percent that makes you unique in your business operations, dissimilar from your competitors. And with that technology, you can really guide a platform to be perfectly optimized for your business, right? Not having to shoehorn your business into a software platform like MachineMetrics. Of course, everything below everything in the above is driven by Max AI, our intelligence layer, right? This runs beneath our 4 layers and makes everything smarter. And we're delivering AI agents that help you do these jobs every day, from connectivity agents that help you identify what machines you're connecting and then suggest ways that you can do it faster and easier, to operator agents that help guide operators to do work, to continuous improvement agents, to building applications agents, right? All this stuff is designed, it all comes packaged within the solution. And turns out we're really good at this. This is called a humble brag. None of these customers were here when I started, and now they're everywhere. Right. And so these are the customers that rely on MachineMetrics to drive their business. Now, enough from me. I've gone on far enough talking about myself and MachineMetrics. I am proud of what we built here, and it is fun to talk about. But we're here to talk about Eric. We're here to talk about RCO. And so, Eric, passing the baton to you.
Yes.
Tell us about yourself. Tell us about RCO.
So my name is Eric Doyle. I'm the operations manager here at RCO for our machining division. RCO has been in business since 1973. We're located in Roseville, just outside of Detroit, those that aren't familiar. We got started in the automotive seating business. Since then, we've grown quite a bit over the years and gotten very involved in aerospace seating and aerospace manufacturing in general. I'd say about a little over 16 years ago is when we really transitioned into aerospace seating. Since then, we have developed our in-house machining capabilities to help support that division of our company. I think the production machining division had one machine in 2013, and we currently have, I think, 42 that we're tracking through MachineMetrics right now. So it's been a lot of growth in a fairly short amount of time. I got on board in 2011, right at the beginning of this. Most of my career has been spent in the machining department. My background before coming to RCO was aeronautical engineering. However, I did fall in love with machining and programming. I actually was a programmer for the better part of a decade. So I'm very intimate with how a machine shop operates, the intricacies of machining, production, high mix, low volume, and more recently getting into some large format aerospace parts, which has its own challenges. But as we grew, we found ourselves needing a way to track what we were doing. Our beautiful spreadsheets that we had developed were no longer cutting it, and we needed a way to kind of help with scheduling, help track where we're at, help find inefficiencies. I mean, all the same reasons that everybody wants to get machine tracking software. But along that way, we found, we needed more than just that.
And Eric, a question for you that I think a lot of people ask, right? You're sort of at the genesis of your tech journey, right? You've got a highly tech capable business. You guys are making some of the most advanced parts in the world with some of the most advanced machines with some of the smartest people in the world, right? And I think what a lot of people we say, hey, we need software to solve this. Tell us, like, what are the actual, like, how does this impact your business, like not having technology in place? Were you finding that, like, we were getting backlogged on work, that we were, finding that we were spending too much on the operations? Like, where did you see, like, the lack of technology hurting?
The biggest impact, in manufacturing, everybody knows, I'm sure, pull aheads, expedites, and last minute requests are commonplace, right? And when you're trying to schedule a shop that's grown much larger than you can do with just a simple spreadsheet, being able to know what you can take on, what an expedite request will impact, the work that you already have, answering updates on when something's going to be done. We've developed several different iterations of our seat over the years, and anytime you implement or introduce these development projects into your standing production, it has a massive impact, right? You're trying to use the same resource pool that you're doing to keep up with your production to now introduce all this aggressive timing to develop a new seat. And what is that going to do? Where can we place this? What do we need to source? What can we try and keep in-house? So the biggest thing I think for us was probably planning ability. We lost that ability to have any kind of accurate idea on when something's going to be done past a couple of jobs, right? And it's really important to know that. You have to know what you can take on. And now it's still true. There's a ton of work out there for the aerospace industry, for manufacturing, and you don't want to leave anything on the table, but you don't want to overcommit either, right?
Totally.
And this, being able to accurately forecast and schedule is huge.
Now,
and it's quite a challenge to do accurately.
Amen. Right? Especially without the data to do it. And today, I heard two things from you that maybe you could elaborate on really quick, which is that, today, the data, it wasn't that you weren't getting data, right? Like there were like attempts to capture data.
Yes.
Right?
Well, I guess I failed to mention too, we, along this journey, we also implemented ERP software, right? That was another logical step in this growth. And that was corporate, that was company-wide, which was quite an undertaking. But to your point, Graham, we suddenly had a lot of data. But if you can't look at the data, you can't understand the data, you can't trust the data, or you're not getting consistent, accurate inputs for the data. I mean, everybody's heard the term garbage in, garbage out, right? You can't do anything with it. So we were kind of handicapped by our data in a way, now that we had it and we had a system that we were trying to utilize, and we needed something that could kind of bridge that gap between the floor and ERP and solve a lot of the problems we had. I mean, for a while, it seemed like our software, the ERP software, added inefficiencies because we're still relying on the old spreadsheet because we totally don't trust the data we're getting into the ERP yet. And now you're using both instead of switching. And, I'm sure these are familiar problems for a lot of people that have gone through this.
Yeah. Can we get a few amens in the chat from those of you who have that experience? I mean, come on.
I mean, we get to that point where it's like you have a memorial service for the spreadsheet that you finally decided to kill because you just have to move on.
I'm going to definitely generate an AI image of a memorial service for the spreadsheet. No doubt about it.
It can be scary, but you have to. And that was one big thing was how do we control and get better data that we can trust into our ERP system. And honestly, in the type of work we do, high mix, low volume, the only way to do that is to automate it. If you're manually auditing and entering all of this data, it's going to become a tax on your efficiency, not a help.
MachineMetrics enters the chat, right? So we've got, this is a great segue to, hey, obviously, you guys are smart. You look at a bunch of different systems, right? You selected MachineMetrics. What was the epiphany? What was the philosophy, the decision behind why we chose MachineMetrics?
So there's a couple things I can remember that were really, stand out significant decision makers. To put you where we were at this time, we had a machine monitoring software. It wasn't super capable, but it could track uptime. It could track parts and jobs. It relied on the operators entering that information. So we had tablets or screens at all the machines. We were a few years into our ERP software, and it had a simple MES tracker for tracking mostly just labor on jobs, right? And then our main tracker for our material, parts produced and scrapped, were our paper travelers still, right? Now, we at least were generating those from our ERP software, but they were still a paper traveler that was, following the job around the floor. And for us being in aerospace, all the material lot tracking is very important. And that was still all done with the paper traveler. But we found ourselves trying to implement processes and train our team to enter this information on the machine tracking software, enter this information on the paper traveler, enter this information on the ERP MES. And we were having a hard time getting everybody to not miss any of these steps. And I couldn't blame them. We were asking them to do the same thing in 3 different places. And so I was looking for something that could consolidate that. We'd have one interface that could solve all of these problems. But in order to do that, you'd have to have an interface that was going to talk to our ERP system.
Yeah, exactly. We discovered this, right? Literally inherent in the name MachineMetrics, right? Like when I started here, we were essentially a machine monitoring company. There was always a bigger vision, right? But we walked in these factories, right, and we saw that machines weren't running, and we're like, man, we got to monitor these machines, right? But as you probably know, right, better than anybody, machines aren't always like the problem, right? It's like if you maintain the machine, right, if you have automation on the machine, if the materials arrive on time, the tools are changed, like that machine's just going to run and run and run. Right?
The machines that run efficiently and quickly and are going through jobs left and right are the ones that are hardest to track.
Exactly.
And you don't want your tracking or your data to hold up actually getting the work done. I mean, that's the reason we're doing all of this in the first place, right?
Agreed. And I also think something that we talked about a bit was, when the two systems, right, like call like monitoring machines, right, or even production monitoring and our ERP are disconnected, then we can't really use that real-time data to inform our like the center of our business, right? Which is of course the ERP, right? And I think what a lot of people discount from like an MES deployment is that a lot of this is centered around the actual problem, which is the ERP itself, right? And I think people, companies get stuck almost in like a cycle of, well, I need to get a new ERP. I need to get a new ERP. I need to get a new ERP. And sometimes
they're these separate entities, right? You have this problem that is your ERP, and you're trying to get that data right. Then you have your machine monitoring data, and you're trying to make sense of that data. And they're just two problems instead of one solution.
I agree.
I can remember the moment I heard the term bidirectional API with ERP, and I was like, boom.
No, that was light bulb number one. Yeah. And I actually do have a hypothesis that many people probably, I mean, of course there's, there's breakthroughs in new technology within ERP. So I'm not saying that, when it makes sense, you shouldn't, but I do have a belief that in reality, I think many companies upgrade ERP, but it's not always that the next ERP is solving the problem. It's more that the data that is coming into that ERP, right, is making that ERP not function well.
Oh, 100%. It goes back into the garbage in, garbage out, right? You're only going to be able to benefit from your ERP software. And I believe that most of them probably are very capable if you can get good data. I think the bottleneck and the holdup on that for a lot of companies is just going to be getting consistent, accurate, and real-time data into that system.
Totally. So, okay. So you heard magic words. You heard, okay, I heard bidirectional APIs. Your ears poke up. You say
one interface, bidirectional API.
We
automated data.
We're excited. Tell me it can't be too good to be true. Okay. So we get that. But then, you chose MachineMetrics as a partner, right? And as partners, right, we discover challenges together, right, along that journey.
So one of the first things when we started implementing the software, which went pretty smooth and quick. I mean, we had already had a machine monitoring software, right? So most of the machines were easy to hook up and get communicating. And we quickly ran into the problem that we knew we were going to have already. We had recently added some more automated equipment, right? We have, a linear pallet system that has 3 HMCs tied in together with 24 pallets on it. We've got 5-axis machines that now have pallet pools that are constantly feeding and changing jobs, which was very exciting for us. And we were able to track the utilization increase, right? We know these things are running more efficiently. We're getting more work through them, but tracking labor and tracking jobs and parts and scrap and material through these is so much more difficult. And it worked with the paper travelers. It's not in real time, but you can make sure nothing gets missed. You're waiting on the operators to fill them out as these jobs get completed. But it worked. And you guys at the time had something that kind of tackled palletized machines, but it was the same problem that you see everywhere. It would work if you were making the same part all year.
That's right.
Or a handful of parts. You have to have the syntax perfect. All your programs have to fit what the software is looking for, and it can read that and it can tell when it's doing what, but you're modifying your operation to try and fit that out of the box software, right? And in aerospace or any kind of high mix, low volume production environment, there's just too much variable to really capitalize on that.
For context for our audience here, if you've ever done machine monitoring, well, not any machine monitoring, but even the most modern machine monitoring software, there's a breakthrough in technology that companies like MachineMetrics have been doing for a long time, which is called automated program matching. The idea was essentially that with a list of operations, you could essentially look at the program, right, on the machine instead of requiring an operator, right, to tell you what is happening on the machine. You simply look for program adjustments, right? And when the program shifts, then we can say, oh, we're now working on op 1, op 2, op 3, right? Of course, this is in a perfect bubble where you have all that information perfectly syntaxed in your machine monitoring software, right? But for companies that run hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of SKUs, right? Some of which were programs, years ago, even
or the perfect example is you're on a horizontal machine, you have a tombstone, and your setup 1 cuts 16 parts, but your setup 2 only does 2 at a time. And even a simple little hurdle like that, and trying to get accurate part counting without getting too granular in your ERP with your mom and bomb on every single individual operation and program that's sent to the machine, that's not realistic. You need something that can just kind of be like, all right, it took this long to make 1 part.
Exactly. And so like with that, like what's beautiful, just sidebar, obviously I'll let Eric speak this more than us, but what we love about partners, right? MachineMetrics, we're not SAP. We actually care about your business. No offense, SAP. But we're also not a tiny company anymore either, right? We've got companies all over the world that use our product, but we really care about our customers. And so like especially when we have customer-led innovation, we work together, right? We find that the best solutions, right, get delivered, right? Because they're actually solving real customer problems. And so this was like the natural birth of what the next generation of we call auto production monitoring, which was ERP powered job matching. And so for Eric's team, right, we call it APM shorthand in-house, right? But essentially the way that it works is that we read the program information running on the machines, and then we use AI algorithms to match those with the right work order operations automatically through the ERP integration itself. And instead of you having to essentially change every one of your programs, the hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of programs, or the problems that Eric was describing, that you have very, not even just specific to multi-pallet machines, but specific to any machine, but very specifically problematic for any machine that's running multiple operations at a time. You can use those signals and that AI matching to track all of this data directly from the machine itself, instead of using like an operator that's going to have to like enter into a spreadsheet or so on and so forth.
I can remember, because for the first while, we really focused on the ERP integration, right, before we came back and tackled this problem. And I can remember talking with Paul, and the first time we saw a demo on what this was going to look like, because I've seen a ton of these demos, a ton of different software's attempts at solving this problem for palletized machines. And I was pumped because this is the first time I saw this. I'm like, I can see this working. This makes sense. I'm not going to have to completely change our process or the programming office or the structure of how everything's labeled. Not that I would be against that, but it's quite a task to try and make that work. I'm like, this can work now. This can adapt to how we do things and figure it out. And I don't need a team of people to try and implement it. Right.
Totally. And this was called this breakthrough 2, right? Breakthrough 1, ERP integration, right? Breakthrough 2, the ability to track multiple operations running on an individual machine without requiring operators to enter data. This isn't just like your standard program matching. This is like an AI-powered ERP integration and as far as we know, again, like I hate to say things that I don't know for certain, but I personally don't believe any other company in the world has actually been able to deliver this technology for multi-pallet machines. Please prove me wrong in the chat if you can. But this was the unlock, right, Eric?
Yeah, it was. And I just to kind of go back on that for 1 second and give those with us an idea of what this means. I can have an operator on a machine cell that's got 3 machines and say it's running 8 different parts, that shift. They log in, focus on getting the machine running. And as these cycles complete, the software identifies what's running, looks at the programs, matches up what went towards what, regardless of how many setups and how many parts are produced, and shows them, hey, this is what I think is going on here. And the operator basically says, yep, that's correct. This is running. If it does, in the rare chance it mismatches something, it's super easy to correct. And the operator can do that right on the fly. And then it will remember that going forward. So it's only a one-time problem. And then at the end of their shift, they close out, they say what was produced. It pulls the material right out of our inventory, which is I think what we're getting into next. But it splits their labor between all of these jobs that were running back into my ERP system. So now I have accurate labor tracking, divvying up their time across what jobs actually ran on this automated machine, which was next to impossible to try and pull off before.
Exactly. And for those of you who were in the chat, because there's a timely question somebody asked about, what does it mean exactly by reading the program? And just for clarity for the audience, like essentially because MachineMetrics is connected to the machine itself, right? We're getting everything off the machine: loads, feeds, speeds, temperatures, rotary velocities, diagnostic PMC parameters, machine specific alarm codes, all that stuff, right? But we're also getting the actual program itself as it runs, from the program header to the sub program header to the macros, right? So when the machine is running all the G code, you can literally see, right, when the program itself goes from state 1 to 2 to 3, right? And just to double down the technology itself, right? Just to be candid, the technology to be able to match that with an operation only works, right, if you have some sort of unique identifier.
If it's all predetermined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's nothing MachineMetrics, no matter how cool our technology is, to do that until this breakthrough.
Yes.
Right? Because in the past, and for those of you that tried to deploy other production modern technology, I'm not here to hate, just here to throw the facts out, right? It's you got to essentially add a unique identifier code or redo all of your programs, right, to have those unique identifier codes, right? And that doesn't even solve the multi-pallet problem, right? That just solves the ability essentially to tie a program to an operation, right?
Josh had a good question. I just saw if
please.
Auto production monitoring is CMMC compliant, which great question. I'm going to try and answer this one. I'd be curious your thoughts on it as well, Graham. I would think that there wouldn't be an issue here. There's not really any CUI that this is parsing or looking at, especially if you're already trying to be CMMC compliant. You probably have your ERP is using your own internal part numbers and not customer part numbers anyways, which is really what this is mostly going to be looking at.
Totally. That's exactly right. We could give a whole webinar on the mythology of CMMC compliance. You are spot on, just for what it's worth in your analysis. Essentially, that's not CUI. Really, where CUI can come into this would be say on your work order you have the name, right, of your customer, or something on there that's a unique identifier. And but again, the way that you do that is you manage your own, with an ERP integration that's managed, right? You're the one that determines what CUI actually is, right? And we're controlling and documenting what MachineMetrics is looking at in your ERP. It's not all turned on, right? Exactly. That's exactly right. And so you're able to essentially avoid CUI going into MachineMetrics, and by managing that ERP integration as a middle layer, right? And so I think a lot of companies do get spooked by the CMMC and FedRAMP and all that stuff. I do, for those of you that are really deep in the weeds, and I know I don't want to get too stuck on this because we could talk about this forever, but MachineMetrics is on our path to FedRAMP. And we do have a letter of attestation for anybody who's interested in getting that can essentially speak to the dates at which we will be delivering that FedRAMP readiness. But we can, like I said, we also do host MachineMetrics in GovCloud as well, for those of you that have concerns about outside U.S. persons and so on and so forth. But great question. We're happy to talk about that more later on. But let's get to the results, right? Because I think this is so we delivered all this tech, right? And now we're holy shit, holy crap, it's working, right? We're doing it. So what changed, right? How did business change?
Well, so one of the big things that I want to touch on, and it has to do with this slide, the live material truth. We obviously, tracking your inventory is a big thing, right? There's a ton of value there, a ton of potential costs there. And in part of our ERP integration too, you're trying to utilize the automation that offers with, seeing the demand that you have for materials, trusting that your system is kicking off demand to purchasing to acquire these materials, and not buying things that you don't need or over showing inventory, and then you're short when you need to run. And a big problem with that was having live data, real-time data on your material. And when we were doing the paper travelers, not only was that a process that required labor to take this information and put it into your ERP system, but it was also delayed. If the job ran for a few days or a week, once that traveler was turned in to our admin to enter all of it into our ERP, that's when the material came out of our inventory. That's when the parts were submitted and became finished goods inventory. And so really at any point in time, if we were trying to look at where we were at material wise, we didn't know. We had kind of an idea, but if you had a 200 piece order on the floor that was about to be turned in, you have 200 less pieces than what your inventory is telling you. Right. And the ERP systems have ways around that. Like ours is called backflush. It will automatically withdraw material from your inventory as parts are produced. Again, that's only going to be accurate if you're accurately recording when they're produced.
Right.
But the bigger problem is it cannot do lot tracking because it doesn't know what lot you're using. It just pulls it from your material. And you could do, first in, first out for that, but that's truly still not a safe lot tracking practice, right? So I didn't skip a slide here. Am I on the right track?
Oh, you're good. This was the bins.
Okay, yeah, we're getting to the bins. So yeah, so we worked with another thing that I was really pumped with, that we worked with Paul and your team on developing. When we got the bidirectional really flowing with our ERP, one of the problems was, okay, well, we want to record parts as they're finished in real time, but that's going to mean we have to issue the material in real time, because our ERP requires that, these things happen in the correct sequence, so they know how to cost to what operation. If you issue material after you say a part's done, that creates a problem. So how are we going to issue the material, automatically prior to issuing or submitting that the parts have been completed? So we have an interface that you guys developed right in the same MachineMetrics interface when parts are submitted, and there's kind of like an operator audit chance for them to make sure the information is correct and submit. They can confirm the material lot that's used right then and there, and that all gets submitted back to our ERP in the proper sequence. And it's an added double check or poke-yoke, if you will, that makes sure that it's right. The other thing we did is we actually made all of our machines their own bin in our warehouse. So we have these workflows through MachineMetrics where the operators can request material, and that will get send a notification to our material handler. They can bring the material to the machine, but when they do that, they also transfer what lot of material they're taking to that machine's bin. And now when the operator is reporting finished parts, they're only able to issue material towards that job from that machine's bin. So they can no longer grab incorrect lots. That was a huge, huge success getting that working, because you can imagine, how much time goes into figuring that out when your inventory is off. And it doesn't just matter for having incorrect quantities, but if your lots are wrong, your parts are scrap. That's a huge problem. And so it has to be right. So having that extra step without needing personnel to audit it was massive. And just, we did audit it for a while at first until we really built trust, but we've been able to completely eliminate the responsibility of just entering and checking lots on material because the system does it for us.
I love to hear that, because I think, when companies are looking at this type of technology, they're simply like, cost justification can be really challenging, right? Because you're like, okay, I know I need to spend money, right, to make more, but like when you're looking at justifying, you can't necessarily do a cost justification based on potential gains. It has to be based on some sort of cost reduction, right?
Yeah.
And you just said it perfectly, which is like, we could reduce cost here, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, one tragic scenario with the wrong lot of material could be very costly. And not to mention just the time it takes on your materials team. You know, we've been able to grow, you know, and where I was a year ago, I was pretty sure I was like 75% of the way to needing another team member on my materials team. Once this is all implemented and working, we've grown since then, and I still have not had to add that team member to that team.
I'm sure for the 13 people here, at least live, or I'm not sure how many people there are here live, but for those of you who are live listening to this webinar, that's probably music to their ears, right? Because like finding people, I mean, not easy, right?
No, it's incredibly difficult, especially in what we do. I mean, there's tons of talented people out there, but people that know our industry and are intimate with machining, it's just not a lot of people out there, and it's difficult to find good people. And you want to be, you know, selective still. You don't want to just take anybody that's got the right qualifications, right? You want to carefully build your team. You know, it's really important, at least I think so, and that you get the right people. So it's nice to be able to do more with your core team that you already have and trust, that have kind of grown up with the company. I mean, you're still going to need to bring people on and grow, and that's exciting, but to be able to do it at a more controlled rate is a lot better.
That's the dream, right? So what I'm hearing is, well, first of all, that dream's a reality now for you. Two, we've been able to get live material truth, essentially, right? So now we don't have to wait for jobs to close anymore for our ERP to reflect reality. We're now seeing actual reality happening as it's happening, right? Which is key, right? We're now getting full lot traceability, tying to the jobs automatically, right? So we didn't have to hire another person anymore to do this. In fact, we were able to automate virtually the entire process itself. And in doing so, we've reduced the total number of solutions that on the factory floor. So you can just have an operator manage one system that's solving and really giving them the solutions, right, to their problems.
Yep.
Right? And I think that's really a key here, is like enabling the operator. For example, like one of the things, like material, like, I don't know if like I've seen operators wandering around looking for things.
Oh yeah, or they're hey, have you seen so and so? I need this material and I can't find them, and it's probably because they're dropping off material somewhere else, right? Or they end up going to our programmer and tasking them with figuring it out,
Yep.
which means they're not programming, right?
Exactly.
It's huge for the guys because they can worry about planning what's next, pulling the fixturing, you know, what their responsibilities are, hit a button and know that material's coming.
Now, we were also able to make some decisions, right? Not just seeing a bunch of problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about what changed on that end.
So I touched on this earlier. Expedite decisions are commonplace in manufacturing, especially, you know, with what we do here and us supplying our seating division. You know, we have a ton of different part numbers that go into very complicated bombs, and I'm not envious of the material managers in our seating department with all the parts that go into these seats. But they change, right? Things change. The customer changes what they want. You know, most of these seats are I can't even tell you how many different versions our customers can order of these seats. They're extremely customizable. So yes, we might make generally the same thing, but I'll have 15 different versions of one part number depending on what they order. Those change. So I'm constantly getting questions from our seating department. Hey, can I pull this ahead? Hey, can you do this, you know, by this date? Or how long would it take you to get me 20 of these? And those are really difficult questions to answer before. And for lack of a better way of putting it, and I'm sure a lot of the guys or people on here would understand this, you're going off gut. Like, yeah, I could probably get those done by this day. There might be some data backing that, or you might look at the schedule a little bit, but it's not like hard data.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, now we can look at a schedule. I can drag and drop, move things around. I've got completion dates out as far as I have jobs on the machine. And I mean, it's not going to be perfect, but it's the best that I've had yet. Pretty darn accurate. I can say, yeah, I can put this in and get these by then, can you live with this being pushed out 4 days? Like, yeah, that's no problem. We don't actually need them by, those conversations that happen all the time, I can do quickly and efficiently without having to go talk to 5 different people or try and figure out my best guess on what this is going to do to this machine's schedule. That's been huge.
I'm putting that on the front page of MachineMetrics website. The best I've had yet.
Well, I must. I mean, we all know you're never going to get that to the hour, perfect, right? Ever. But I think the best way I could summarize what I was trying to say there is, normally you try and figure something like that out, I got to talk to a few people, and that's inefficient. I'm taking them away from what they're doing. It's a cumbersome task to figure out, and it's one that I have all the time.
Totally.
So to be able to answer it on my own without having to chase a bunch of answers is huge.
Empowering the people to do what you have to do, which is get things done, right? I love to hear that. Now, obviously, there's been impact, right? You guys are growing, right? Tell us a little bit about what you guys have experienced overall, in your estimation.
Well, so we have been growing a ton, like I kind of touched on at the beginning, with our, I was introducing RCO. In the last 10, 13 years, we've seen nonstop growth. So our biggest struggle has always been keeping up with that. And a big problem with that is adding people, finding, programmers, adding equipment. And we got to the point where we were running out of real estate even in our shop for machines. In the last year, we've increased our throughput by roughly 20%, and I absolutely have not increased my equipment or headcount by that same amount. And then there's no doubt that MachineMetrics has played a big role in doing that. And obviously the automated equipment as well, right? But that they go hand in hand. We're back full circle to what we were talking about earlier. I can't really, I'm going to be putting more automated equipment in. I have more machines and robots that just hit the floor that aren't even set up yet, that are going to utilize this software and everything that we just talked about and be able to track it. Otherwise, I'd be adding, for what I would gain in the automation, I'm losing some of that in tracking and admin and data entry.
Totally. If you're going to invest in automated equipment, you need automated production monitoring, period, right? Like otherwise, it's like you're only going to get so much out of it, right? I totally agree. Well, I love to hear numbers like that. We like to back it up, right? So, and I appreciate, your willingness to share some of that with us today, because I know there's a lot of people here that are looking to grow, right? Their business. And, obviously automation is a clear path to get there, right? But, if we're not scheduling that properly, we're not tracking it properly, right? We're not getting the automation what it really needs to be successful. It's like, well, then we're not going to get the most out of those investments, right? So I do love to hear that. So what's next? I know we're getting to the end here of the webinar. I appreciate everybody who's stayed with us the whole time. So thanks to nobody leaving. I'm assuming that means that everyone's enjoyed the content so far. Tell us what's next for you guys. Sounds like you've got some big plans for MachineMetrics.
I do. There's lots of things that I'd like to start implementing in different areas of the company. We have other departments that are very interested in this. We kind of were the guinea pig. And probably the best fit, but I think that I definitely don't want to put MachineMetrics into a box with what it can do, especially with what we've seen in the last year and a half. I also focused most of this all on our parts machining, right? It was all about production parts machining. I have a whole nother building and department that does tooling machining. We have a plastics division, we have a sheet metal division. We're cutting punches and dies, cores, cavities, inserts, lifters, all that. And originally, we hadn't really gotten to the point of figuring out how that tracking is going to work. It was just made more sense to fit with parts machining, right?
Right.
That end also, as you can imagine, was difficult really getting granular with our ERP and bombing all that out with a tool, all the different components. But what you end up with is, again, very hard to track, very hard to schedule, very hard to give updates on when things are going to be done, lining up the mold shop on when they're going to get a tool to start benching on. And now that we have this bidirectional API with our ERP, it actually justifies us getting all of those BOMs accurate into our ERP system so that it can automatically put all those jobs onto a schedule board for MachineMetrics, and bam, I can look at in one shot with just a sync to our ERP what needs to be machined and where it can go. And if I have to send, something out to hit the timing the customer needs, and those decisions that are hard to make but are scrutinized, right? Because you never want to send anything out, but sometimes you do.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it. I'm excited about that and what that's going to do for us. I think that's going to be huge. And then also the workflows. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface with the workflows. I want to get some like dispatch boards or queues in like our quality area, in our material warehouse. That notification I was talking about earlier with request material. I'm imagining a nice live board in materials area that's showing what needs to go where. Same thing, we can do that with our CMM lab. These are all we know. MachineMetrics knows when you're in setup and once you're approved for production, right? It knows when you're waiting for green tag approval. So it knows it's going to be in CMM. That workflow can pick that right onto a board that the CMM operators can look at. Now that's one less task I need to burden our quality employees with to try and coordinate and schedule. In-process inspection, final inspection, I want to automate that. That's still all paper. Doesn't need to be, right? I think that's something that I would love to see what we could come up with. I mean, machines, the screens are already at the machines.
That's right.
And we talked earlier about how big it is for me to want to do all this through one interface and not have to have, my team members trying to jump from paper to this interface to that interface. You're going to have fallout if you're doing that.
That's right. All of which, by the way, you can do. And when you stop by, hopefully, if you're at IMTS, the booth for everybody here and you specifically, we'll show you exactly how we can start taking those projects on, because there's a lot of that stuff can be just straight up self-service in the product. We've got some really cool stuff there I think you'll be excited about, and for the listeners as well. We love these types of projects. Our customers like Eric help push us forward. And like I said, when you're partners, right, you can validate what you're building and make sure that every feature or every technology, every capability that goes out the door helps our customers make more money, right? And that is the key to, I think, our success and hopefully to our partners as well. So that's what we were all about today, guys. I've got like a couple of quick things to wrap up, but I think if I were to summarize today, like it's not just about taking on more work, it's about keeping up with it. Would you agree with that statement?
Absolutely. That could not be more true. And I hope that this is most people's experience right now. But there's a lot of work out there in our industry. There's a lot of machining work, especially in aerospace right now. And that is the biggest challenge is, how do we keep up with the pace at which this is out there? How do we keep up with the pace and as the shifts in this direction? How do we not leave this work on the table and get this work through our shop efficiently and track it accurately? I like that summarization quite a bit.
Well, thanks our marketing team for really nailing that for that one. So I appreciate you guys. And so for those of you that are still here, like I said, thanks for joining us. I want to give a huge shout out to Eric for being amazing and for helping us, taking the time to be here.
My pleasure.
Experiences. Grateful to you as always. There's a lot of amazing stuff coming from MachineMetrics, from Carbide Application Builder, which is our AI application builder, which allows you to literally build all the stuff that you just described, but doing it easily using natural language programming and tools like Claude and Cursor and so on and so forth. We'll have to talk about that more next time we're together. AI operator assistants are coming out live at IMTS from automated job dock delivery to shift handovers, digital traveler experiences. It's all about getting the right information, the right people at the right time. We'll also be showing off our tool intelligence platform, which is all designed about getting more out of your tooling. So outside of those, we're at the end of the webinar. We're at 3 o'clock. We did our best to answer the questions that came in live. So we didn't go over time today. So hopefully we were able to answer the 3 or 4 questions that came in throughout the webinar. Thanks, Modern Machine Shop. Thanks, Eric. And we'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, good deal. Yeah, so as Graham said, this is all the time we have for the webinar. We hope you found it helpful. Guys, thanks again for the informative presentation. I thought it was really insightful. So with that, I'll just close it out by simply saying on behalf of Modern Machine Shop, MachineMetrics, and RCO Engineering, thanks for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day.